Hi there, Vanessa Snow here, and we are starting a program which is interviewing local business owners. And so today I am here with the clock specialist. I am going to let them introduce themselves and what they do and how long they've been into business.
Hi, my name's Ron Rachi, and geez, I've been a clockmaker longer than dirt, I think. Yeah, I started my trade back in 1974, so I've been doing this for 50 years. I still enjoy it, and people are always asking me nowadays, well, how long are you going to keep doing this? And I usually say, as long as my hands and my eyes hold out and everybody's nice to me, I'll keep doing it. So far, they have been. So.
Well, happy anniversary, I guess, 50-year anniversary. That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm. So I'm Ruth Orschow, and I was trained as a watchmaker in Germany, in East Berlin actually. And I came here to the United States in '98, and then I started working for Ron in 2004. So I came into the insurance office, and we shared a building with the insurance. So Ron's clock shop was right there, and I thought, maybe I should ask. And that's what I did, and we have been working together off and on ever since.
Yep, full time for the last 15 years.
Yeah.
And partners in life as well.
Partners
Yes.
in life as well. Yes, absolutely.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And this is Lenny. I don't know. Oh, you can't see him on here, but maybe he'll pop back in. So tell us about your service and products, as well as any unique service or product that isn't necessarily obvious by the name or the nature of your business.
Well, the clock specialist pretty much says what we do. We restore people's fine quality antiques and also newer clocks. What we do when we take someone's timepiece in is it becomes like one of our own. It becomes part of the family. We will completely dismantle it, inspect each piece, repair anything that needs to be repaired, reinstall everything, check everything thoroughly, and run it so that the customers very, very rarely have to bring anything back to us. I apprenticed with a man when I was younger, and one of the things that he ingrained in me was to do the job correctly the first time.
Yeah, 1000%.
Do it right the first time.
Measure twice, cut once.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, in today's world, that's becoming a lost art.
Mm-hmm.
You don't find people who care and have pride and integrity in what they're doing. And I don't know if that sets us apart from everybody else, but that's what we do.
I think it does. Yeah, I think it does 1000%.
Yeah, and also it involves cleaning the cases, oiling the cases, making sure the case looks nice. And yeah, people are often surprised like how new the clock looks, even though it's an old timepiece. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm excited. I'll show you guys later that I actually have a clock that I brought of my grandfather's that is 100 years old. And so super excited to show you that as well. So how did you get started and why this industry?
No, that's an interesting story.
It's a good story.
Back when I was a young man, I was working as a machinist down at one of the airplane factories down in San Diego. And the company I was working for at the time went on strike. And my next door neighbor at the time owned a clock and watch shop. And he asked me while I was on strike if I wanted to come in and learn a little bit about watches. Well, I've always enjoyed working with my hands. I've always been very mechanically inclined. And I thought, well, that sounded like fun. Well, they assured us the strike was only going to last a couple of weeks. Well, 9 months later, when they finally settled the strike, I didn't want to go back. And about probably 6 months into working with my friend Ron, his name was Ron also, I started realizing I didn't really like working on watches. The nature of being a watchmaker is you stay bent over a bench all day long going like this.
Oh, yeah.
And I started noticing.
Really intricate.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah.
you're like this all day long, 8 hours a day.
It's this big,
Right.
Sometimes even this big.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I'm starting to find that most of the watchmakers I was meeting all had two things in common.
They were hunchback.
They were bad posture and bad eyes.
Oh, yeah.
Because not only that, none of the hunch over, but you're focusing all the time the same distance with an eye loop. And so that's really hard on your eyes.
Yeah.
And so I was going to actually, thinking about stopping, and Ron Barnum, that was my neighbor, his father, Woody, overheard the conversation. He said, well, if you don't like, that's your problem. He said, why don't you try clocks? You might like clocks. And I just fell in love with clocks. Clocks don't just keep time, they have animation, They've always got a story behind them. If the parts are big enough that if something's broken, we can manufacture them ourselves. Whereas with watches, you pretty much are a slave to the availability of parts.
Gotcha.
And that's one of the things with mechanical watches anymore. Parts have gotten very, very hard to find.
Right, yeah.
So I always thought it'd be fun to have a job where I could do something with my hands and my eyes and my mechanical ability, and it's just worked out fabulously. I'm never going to get rich at it. Never will be rich at it. But it's been a very, very
It's your passion.
Been a very, very rewarding life.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And you never look back.
Oh, you
50
know,
years later.
a few times. Back when I was in my early 30s, I went through a little bit of a midlife crisis and decided I wanted to get out of the business for a little while. And I got out and did something else for a couple of years and found out that I really do like the business. So,
Yeah.
So anyway, that's kind of it. And I moved here from Southern California in '92, and been in Salem since then, pretty much, and been in business. Been a clockmaker since 1974. So, and pretty much went into business as a wholesaler, pretty much probably by '75, '76, something like that.
That's
So,
awesome.
yeah, and I've been in this location here since 2000, so I've been here for 23 years.
Okay. But in Salem the whole time, you were. All right.
The whole time.
Yeah. What brought you particularly to Salem?
I had a brother that lived a brother that lives in Vancouver, and I came to visit the Northwest, and I just loved the Northwest. And when I first moved here, I did wholesale work for a shop called Father Time Clocks,
Okay.
and they had a shop in Portland and one in Salem. And I wanted to actually work out of the Portland store, but the owner lived here in Salem, and he saw he had a good thing, and he made me an offer to stay here in Salem that I pretty much couldn't refuse, and it was a good choice.
Yeah.
I love Salem. Like I said, it's small enough that it still feels like a small town, but yet has all the amenities of a larger city. And it's centrally located here, so if you want to go to the coast, you can be there in an hour.
Right.
Mountains an hour.
Beautiful location.
You want to go to the
Portland's an hour.
Right.
Eugene's an hour.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You want to go to the opera
Pretty
in Portland,
central,
you can go in an hour.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a good choice. At first, I wasn't sure, but I pretty much fell in love with it right away. So.
Yeah. That's great. That's
Yeah.
great. How do you differentiate your business from any other competitors? And there's probably not a lot of competitors here, but any competitors that may be in the bigger cities?
The absolute biggest thing that I could say that makes us unique is customer service. The fact that we do everything on the clock. Now, sometimes people bring a clock in and say, "Oh, it just needs cleaned." And there are someone who will maybe just take the clock and put it in an ultrasonic cleaner and take it back out and give it back to the person. Well, by the time a clock gets to a clock shop, generally there's other things that are causing problems. There may be, this one little thing that's actually causing it to stop now, but there's A, B,
But
C,
there's
and
probably
D.
like different things over time that have created that one
Right.
final issue.
That's
Yeah.
the final issue. So if you don't take care of all those, everything that the clock needs to be done, then you're not really doing the customer a general good service by giving them a clock back that's going to run for years and years and years without further maintenance. If you go in and you just do bit work, it'd be like if your car was just about worn out and you took it in and the mechanic said, "Oh, it just needs an air cleaner."
Right.
And then you take it out and it dies down the street. Well, you paid for the air cleaner, but that didn't fix the problem. And so that's an analogy I can make. And I think just the integrity of what we do and how we do it is probably the biggest thing that we have over our competitors.
Yeah. That's great. That's great. What do you wish the public knew about your business or industry in general?
How much time is involved in doing an overhaul on a clock?
Yeah.
That's probably the biggest thing.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things
surprised.
one of the things we do when someone brings me a timepiece is education.
Oh, I love that.
People
I love
don't.
that.
People don't have any idea, and why would you?
Yeah.
What's involved in restoring or repairing a clock correctly? If you bring a clock in, what's going to have happened to it over the years of it running is there's going to be certain places that are worn, certain things that need to be done. So educating the client that the clock needs to be completely dismantled, it needs to be cleaned, it needs all the gears have to be put on a special machine that polishes the ends of the wheels so they're smooth once again. Then you try to check all the bearing surfaces. Any of those bearings that are bad need to be marked. And there's another tool that we have that's designed to oversize that hole to its original center. You oversize the hole to its original center, and you press in a brass bushing. And you hand fit that bushing once again to the corresponding shaft. And once you've got all the gearing correct, which is super important, you've got to be very careful that all the gears are meshing correctly, then the clock gets cleaned one more time to get
Wow.
metal filings or oil, cutting oil off.
Oh, yeah.
And then it all gets reassembled once again. You can't really see it right now, but up here above us, then the clock will get put on a
You
jig
can see it.
and run outside.
Oh, this one, yeah.
Run outside of the case for a couple of days, trouble-free, before we put it in the case. Then we run it in the case. Then we run it in the case for usually 2 weeks
Yeah.
before we call a customer.
To make sure that it's doing what it's supposed to do.
Everything's thoroughly checked.
Gotcha.
Right.
So
Okay. So you're seeing the inner workings and how it's going and making sure that everything is good before it actually goes
Exactly.
back in the case.
assembled into the case. Okay, so the case is the clock itself.
This
That's
is
the
the case.
Okay, gotcha. See, there's so much to know about the different parts, moving parts, and the names of them, and I would have never known that.
And one of the other things that's a misnomer when it comes to watches or clocks, we always do this: is I overwhelmed my clock and it won't run anymore.
Oh yeah.
That's not a case. That's,
Okay.
that's
So
not
what's
what
happening
happens.
when that happens?
You've got other problems in there. What happens is the clock is stopped, or the watch for that matter.
Yeah.
You wind it up and it doesn't start. You figure I wound it up too tight.
Yeah.
Something else made it stop.
Yeah.
It could
It's
be worn
just,
bearings. It could be
like a myth
several
that
different
goes,
things.
people think.
That's what
it's-
people think.
There's no such thing as overwinding your watch or your clock. Then there's something else that
Something
That
else is
causes
broke
a
down
problem.
over time. Okay. I've
I mean,
done
I
that
guess
before,
you
didn't
could
know.
overwind it if you put a pair of pliers on the key.
Oh
Jumped
yeah.
up and down on it or something. But no,
Then
it was
something would
just
break.
some winding it up and it doesn't start. No, you didn't do anything to it. And that's one of the things we have to, a lot of times, let people know. It's like, oh, my brother wound the clock and now it won't work anymore. It's like, no, your brother didn't cause the problem. He's off the
Okay.
hook.
Yeah.
Good to know, because I'm pretty sure that I broke a clock that way when I was a kid, and I thought that's what I did was I was.
No.
Overwinding.
Usually something else. Yeah.
Don't tell anybody that's what I did. So, do you own any other businesses that you'd like to talk about?
Well, yes, we both have side businesses that we do. I'm not currently pursuing it on a regular basis right now, but I'm a full-time musician too. I play drums. I've been playing drums longer than I've been doing clocks. So for about 5.5 years, I had a band here in Salem called the Dead Band, and we played the music of the Grateful Dead.
All the deadheads unite.
Yeah.
Yes.
and it's kind of interesting. I can't go out to any one of the local clubs without 2 or 3 people coming up to me and asking me when I'm going to reform the Dead Band.
Oh,
once
you
again.
should.
You might have to.
Especially now that Dead and Company are done. We'll see if they really are, right?
Well,
But-
We're not touring.
Well, they're
Not touring anymore, right?
Well, they're at the Sphere again in Las Vegas
Mhm.
for 15
Yes.
dates or something like
Yeah.
this. So I had a lot of fun with that, and I played over the years. I played all kinds of music. Someone asked me, "Well, what kind of music do you like to play?" And I'd say at one time, "Well, whatever anybody will pay me, basically."
And
Kinda-
you're
kinda-
playing the drums. You
Playing the
want to
drums,
say that?
yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if you did. Yeah. Okay.
And those are my two things. So I kind of have this moniker. People have called me the timekeeper. During the day, I keep time here in the shop, make things work, and at night, I keep time playing music for the band. So
That's fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
What about you?
I do, in my spare free time that I have, I like to paint. So I do have a painting studio at home, and I create paintings, and I have shown locally and in where else? They're mostly here in Salem for now, and but I also do some upcycled clothing, and I actually had those in Silverton in the gallery for a while. I just took them all back, but. And we have an annual event in summer that's called a studio sale, and I get together with other artists, and we have it outside. And if you want to know more about it, I will talk about it maybe another time.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So
Yeah, and we'll have all that information linked below as well.
Yes.
Any other topic or item of interest that you feel like the public should know about your business in particular or about you?
well, I would have to say that one thing that worries me more than anything else is that there's not a tremendous amount of young people in the business. My son, who's 45, is the youngest person I know in the business.
right.
Okay.
And so if you have a quality timepiece out there that you really love, should probably really think about having it taken care of sooner rather than later. You know, I don't know in the future what it's going to be like. You may not be able to get a clock repaired. You know, and these quality pieces that were made in Germany, England, France, United States, they aren't being produced anymore. All that's being made right now, there's only one company in Germany left making clockworks, and two actually. One making clockworks for grandfather clocks, floor clocks, things like that, wall clocks, mantle clocks, and one company making cuckoo clock movements, and everything else is coming from China right now. And whatever you see right now, for whatever reason, the Chinese aren't producing anything of quality. So clocks are good quality clocks that have a German movement in them are extremely expensive nowadays, very expensive. And so, you know, if someone brings a clock in to have it repaired, and they might be a little aghast at what the actual cost is to have us do all the work I described earlier. But the cost of buying a new one is 4 or 5 times more than we charge. So it's kind of a dying art. That's you know, that's one thing that, as it is with so many things that we've in society today. You know, it's hard to get anything repaired of the quality any longer. So that's what I think that our customers and the general public just needs to know about things that you care about. You know, if you can find people to take care of them that know what they're doing, take care of them. You know, let them become, if they aren't already, let them become family heirlooms.
Yeah. Is there anything else that you'd like to add? Any other questions that I forgot to ask today?
Well, not necessarily a question. I just want to say last year we had a wonderful experience. Ruth and I and my son Danny, who goes by the Clock Doctor, works out of his home in Vancouver, does all the Portland area. I only go as far as Wilsonville.
Okay.
I don't go any farther north. It's funny, I don't mind driving to Sweet Home or Lebanon, but I don't want to go any farther north than Wilsonville. I just give that all to him. So, but the three of us collaborated on restoring the tower clock at the Dallas City Hall last year. And
That's really cool.
Quite an experience. It was built in 1901, and lots of steps going up and down, up and down.
I'll bet. How did you get connected with that? Did somebody just see that you did that?
I had worked on it. I'd done Band-Aid work to it, so to speak, about 5 years ago. And it ran for about 5 years, and this time it's like, no.
Needed an overhaul.
It needed to be completely gone through. So
It
had been electrified many, many years ago, and so we retrofitted it with a modern day electric mechanical movement. So it's still mechanical. So it still strikes the bells mechanically, but the unit we were able to retrofit it with is really very advanced. It knows for say like daylight savings times. Will advance and retire the clock. If the power goes out, it resets automatically. So you don't have the poor maintenance guy running up the stairs every time the power goes out trying to reset the clock.
That's fantastic. So if you're in Dallas, or if you ever go to Dallas, you better check it out.
Yeah, four-sided tower clock is one. In fact, it was interesting because it took several months to do the total restoration. And I guess the Dallas Facebook page had quite a few people wondering when the clock was going to be fixed.
That's cool.
And so,
I didn't know that. That's
yeah.
I hope I mentioned it.
Learn something new every day. Yeah.
So that's probably the only, just the highlight of last year. And, I'm working on a clock right now that's 250 years old.
Oh, I love that.
French clock. And,
wow.
We work on pretty much everything of quality. We don't work on we don't repair battery operated clocks.
Okay.
We replace the units in them if we can. But if you have like one of these melody and motion clocks or something like that, they really can't be repaired. So those kind of things we can't do. They're not mechanical.
Good to know.
They run things that run off computer chips or something like that. That's they're not made to be repaired.
Right.
They're made to pretty much buy a new one.
They're just made to be replaced, which
is
unfortunate because that's
very rich.
Yeah. All right. So you do house calls as well. So people that might have larger clocks.
Yes, I do house calls all the time. And, people have grandfather clocks, and they're not easy to move, not easy to transport, not easy to set up once they've been transported. Modern ones are much easier than the older ones, but even so, I really discourage people bringing me grandfather clocks to work on, complete grandfather clocks. And the reason being is you create a gray area of responsibility. If I repair someone's clock, they want to bring it to me, I always give them this caveat. You may save yourself some money on that initial house call, but when you come to pick the clock up, it'll be running in my shop.
Yeah.
I'll show you that it's running. It'll be keeping time when you come pick it up. If you get it home and it doesn't run, I'm not responsible for that. You saw it running here in my shop. And, you know, if you want me to come back out and set it up, I'll do that for you, but I have to charge you to do that. So when I do a service, when I do a grandfather clock, you pay for the initial service call, which includes an hour of service. If I can repair it in your home, I will.
Yeah.
If the clock needs to come back to my shop, it comes back to my shop, we overhaul it, do whatever needs to be done to it, and I bring it back out in your home, I set it up in your home, and I guarantee it in your home for a period of 1 year, just like it was when it was a brand new clock. That way there's no gray area of
Right.
responsibility, which is with any business, what you want to do is alleviate any kind of problems. And that's something you can the problem that will get created if someone gets a clock home, it doesn't work. I mean, you know, if I pay someone to repair something and it doesn't work, I'm not happy.
Right.
You know,
Right.
but you got to understand who's responsible here. You know, and most people understand that. And consequently, most people don't try to bring me complete grandfather clock cases. Occasionally, we have people over in the coast, and yes, if you want to bring me a clock from the coast, you're going to pay me to go out there. It's going to take all day. You're going to pay me quite a bit of money to drive to the coast, which people do too. They
Yeah.
come
Yeah,
up
I've
with-
done that.
What is your range? How far do you go for house calls?
Furthest I've ever come is Shaw Island in the San Juans.
Oh, okay. Okay.
That's not over here.
That would be an exception.
That is
then.
an exception.
Yeah.
Mostly we stay in the Willamette Valley.
Okay.
You know, I go, like I say, go up to Wilsonville, and I go as far south as Corvallis. I do Albany all the time, Sweet Home, that area.
Okay.
I've got go as far east as I've been up in the hills above Silverton. You know, west. Certainly do the
yeah.
Dalles and McMinnville, Newburgh. You know, all basically all the valley.
Okay.
Valley. We do definitely discourage people from sending us anything. We don't want things coming in the
Oh,
mail.
yeah. Gotcha.
Reason
Shipping
being is I can repair it once again. I can't guarantee what happens when it leaves. No matter how well packed they are,
Right.
if
Something else.
gentleman just picked up a clock, it was his grandmother's. We packed that clock up, we put it in the mail on UPS, United States Post Office, FedEx. It gets to the other end of wherever it's going and it's destroyed. Guess what? The client doesn't want the insurance value.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's the
that's
sentimental
It's the
value.
sentimental
not-
value.
Exactly.
So
Yeah.
we don't do any shipping. And that leads me to another thing. We also don't do any emailing. If you want to talk to us, you go on my webpage, which is salemclockrepair.com, you will find out that there are phone numbers everywhere on it. You're not going to have to look and try and find the phone number. It's not buried anywhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's right there. Call me.
And you're gonna actually get you on the other side. I can attest to that. Every time I call, Ron or Ruth pick up, and they're there for you.
You're
So
not going to get. We're not going to be a third party.
Mhm.
You know, and you know we get busy and people leave us messages, but we're 99% of the time we return those calls. You know, it's the 1% that gets slipped by because we're not perfect.
right.
Yeah.
Generally,
Where else can we find you? You have social media? Or?
we have a Facebook page, Clock Specialist on Facebook. We have, like I said, we're on. I have a web page, and you can find me there. That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
You know,
don't
like
do
everybody, I
anything
used to advertise in the yellow pages, but that doesn't make any sense anymore because
No.
everybody throws the yellow pages
I
away.
know. I
so,
have mine, but that's because I'm a little old school. But that's all right.
Yeah.
So just basically everybody Google clock repair or clock specialist, and we'll pop up in my webpage. It'll be right there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for your time,
Yeah,
Ruth and
you're
Ron. I
very
really
welcome.
appreciate it.
You're very
I'm going to
welcome.
do a little video throughout the store. Every single clock here has a story, and it's one that they're currently working on. So we'll show you some of those. And yeah, I really appreciate your time.
You're very
Thank you
welcome.
You're
both.
welcome. Yes, nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you.
So here is Ron in his domain. So we've got the shop back here, and then if you want to just kind of walk us through what we're looking at
This
here.
is my workbench where I do a lot of the magic happens. This particular clock here is over 250 years old. It's a handmade clock made in Paris, France, and we're restoring that for the client. Required quite a bit of restoration, and we're about 30% there right now. So this one, when this is done, it'll look like a piece of jewelry, and it'll be polished and it'll look fabulous.
That's awesome.
All these clocks you see on the wall and on the tape benches are all clocks that we're in the midst of restoring for folks. We stay very, very busy. We usually have a 2 to 3 month backlog.
Oh,
But we don't
okay.
really want much more than that. Anything more than that, we're just storing people's clocks, so that doesn't do either one of us any good. So out here you'll see a jig that has 2 grandfather clock movements on it. Again, this is something that we do. Run them on a jig like this for 2 to 3 weeks before I send them back out to people's homes and set them up and guarantee them in their homes. And if we turn around here, you'll see a very old woodworks clock. This clock has all wood gears except for the escape wheel. So these were made in the United States with old Yankee ingenuity when the British boycotted us and we didn't have any brass foundries. So Yankee ingenuity was, we'll build the clocks out of wood. So there was a short period of time, about 30 years, where the Americans built clocks out of wood. So that's what that is.
I don't think I've ever seen one before. And then what about this guy?
That is a French clock, very typical of the French era. That's probably late 1800s, early 1900s.
That's gorgeous. Look at the detail on that.
Yeah. And the earlier ones, the how fine the casting is, you can tell how well it was made. It has real fine detail on the casting. It's going to be a better made clock than one that are mass produced. So.
Okay.
And then in this room over here, we have our dog Lenny. There's Lenny.
There's Lenny. Hello, Lenny. And this is where the magic
This
happens.
is where a lot of the mechanical work gets done. This is the movement for that French clock that's on my desk, or the case for that French clock that's on my desk.
Okay.
Beautiful
There's
piece.
the exterior, the case.
Mhm.
The
Yep.
case, I'm learning the
That's the case.
terminology.
Mhm.
Oh, look at that.
These are various machines we use. This is a lathe. This is an industrial pivot polishing tool. This is an older one, probably out of the 30s, 1930s. It's Austrian made. Now they, believe it or not, this little machine here, which costs $4,000,
Oh,
does exactly the same thing.
okay.
So we don't use the big one anymore. And these are different lathes. This is a tool we use for putting oversizing holes to put bushings in. And so when we put bushings in, you'll see all the metal brass filings there from ones we cut. This is a shelf that generally has grandfather clocks waiting to be repaired on it. Cleaning. There's a little bandsaw here. I have another large lathe back there that I don't use too often, but nice to have when you need it.
Yeah.
A polishing machine for polishing the plates and things like I'll do on that clock when I get done with it. These are our ultrasonic cleaners. What we use to clean the clocks.
It looks like this kind of the same thing they would use like in a dentist.
It's exactly the same
Okay.
thing as it does.
All right.
This is a dryer, and we had several different dryers over the years. This is a convection oven. It works better than
I was
anything
going
we've
to
had so
say, it
far.
kind of looks like my toaster oven at
It's a
home.
convection oven. It works fabulous.
That's awesome.
And these
These
are actually all
beautiful.
ones I own. These are all my own.
Okay.
Part of my own collection.
All right. These are great.